So let's get started. I wanted to walk you through some ideas and I guess a bit of an opportunity to stop and pause and think about how you can be more working on your business than stuck in this operations trap. And you both have touched on it. I know I experience it. Anyone in business, I think at times feels like they're sucked into the weeds and stuck doing the work rather than being able to be the business owner that you always dreamt that you might be. And so I want to give you some tips on that and to reassure you this is a very normal challenge, and where it comes from a little bit as well. So before I get into that, for the sake of those people who are watching on and don't know me, my name's Natalie Lincolne. I'm a leadership trainer and coach with Incredible People. It's a business I started back in 2008. So we're into our 19th year of business now. Thank you. I've been working over those years with over 1,000 leaders in all sorts of industries and sectors. And so what I've seen is that leadership, no matter where you are in a big business, in a small business, in government, in nonprofits, yes, it's a different context. And yes, there's different ways that you need to apply your team, get your team delivering on results. But ultimately, leadership is about people, and people are people no matter what industry they're in. And so there's so many elements of leadership that are exactly the same across these industries. And so I've been able to work with people from all sorts of different walks of life and different types of industries and get great results. And I personally find it really intriguing and interesting, being a bit of a leadership tragic that I am, to understand how some of the dynamics apply slightly differently across industry. So as you can see, today we're talking about escaping the operations trap. It's that big boulder that we carry around, that big load, I suppose, that we carry with us when we are business owners or leaders who are shouldering a lot of the responsibility for their team. So this is an opportunity for you as a leader, whether you've got your own team or whether you're outsourcing your work to others, to think, how could I get others doing more of that work so that I can spend more time doing the things that I really make an impact on what I'm trying to do. And that applies whether you're in business, government, or in nonprofits. We all want to be getting more done with the people that we've got. When I ran this session not that long ago, I asked the business owners in the room, what is the amount of money that you spend every month on salaries as a proportion of your total expenditure? Anyone want to have a guess of what they said? They were about $1 million plus turnover, I think. Dean, you know the group I was talking about. What do you think they said their proportion of salaries was of their
60 to 70%?
70?
Yeah, I say 60 to 70.
Yeah, 60 to 70. It was, and it did depend obviously on the sort of business it was, but it was between about 30 and 70%. So you're right. When you think about that, if we're spending so much, even 30%, right? 30% of all the money you spend going on salaries. When you think about that, if your team is working at 60 to 70%, what is that actually costing you? And okay, we could probably work out lost productivity, lost sales, other things, but also it's that load that you're carrying. Quite often you're the one stepping in, helping out to fix and fill those gaps. So that's what we're talking about here. And of course, when I asked those people, here's the sorts of things that they 100% agreed is what they find that they're happening. What does that invisible load look like? It looks like you having to chase people up for everything. It looks like you having to fix things or being given work that needs to be redone or fixed before it can go on to the client or on to the next stage of production. It means you having to approve everything because no one else can really understand the business the way you do or the sort of work that you do the way you do. As I said, redoing work and being the decision bottleneck. Nothing happens unless you give it the thumbs up to go. And it's not just the busyness that comes with all of that. You can see it's a very busy picture, isn't it? Right? It's lines and squiggles everywhere there. And that's what it feels like when you're carrying this load. It's all in your head. It's all running around everything. You're worried about dropping something. But it's that emotional load that you carry as well, that worry, stress, other things that can keep you awake at night and over time are really not good for your mental health. And of course, that plays out in your business because it plays out in your sleep, in your health, you get sick, all of those sorts of things. So we don't want people, I just passionately do not want leaders feeling like that's how business gets done or that's what it takes to be a leader. Yes, ultimately the responsibility is on your shoulders to get things done. But if you've got a team that's working well, hopefully it will feel a bit more like this. Ah, look how calm and just easy that is. Now, okay, this is the ideal world. This is utopia. But you can see that they're focusing more now on developing their team so that they can make decisions, so that they're not having to do the rework and fix mistakes, so that they know exactly what to do, when to do it, and what sort of expectations the leader has of them, their manager. And then their manager can spend more time thinking about strategy, like how can we prevent these issues? What are we trying to achieve as a team? How can we make that happen better? And setting the direction and the planning so that people, and liaising with your stakeholders and your clients and everyone else that needs to be on board with that to make that happen so that your team can help deliver on it ultimately. If your team's not getting that sort of leadership, they're stuck. They're stuck just doing the same old thing, making the same mistakes, and often they can get very frustrated and become disengaged. This sounds like a very HRy question, but what is the flow-on effect of a disengaged team of people? Anyone want to jump in with a symptom? What do you see?
Productivity is down big time. Staff retention is under threat then as well. Two key ones, I think.
Yeah.
Probably sales would be the one thing that would be down. Yeah, profitability.
Yep, sales would be down. Profitability could be also linked to poor quality management, rework, returns, refunds. There's heaps of stories like that. Exactly. So while engagement sounds like a very fluffy HR term, it does actually have a business cost and you can measure it. And what we know is that if we've got managers and supervisors who zoom out a little bit from the day-to-day and think about their role as being more one that enables their team to be great, then they have the time and the space to focus on those other things, and their team actually feel more valued as well, is a flow-on effect of that. So if we look at the next slide, the shift then is from thinking of yourself as the everyday expert, the person who has all the answers, the person who knows how everything's done, to shifting your mindset to being the person who multiplies other people's knowledge and becomes that everyday leader. So learning not to be the person to jump in with all the answers sounds so easy, but it's actually really hard. So let's just look at a case study here. So over here, we've got our everyday expert. Looks a bit like a mechanic, doesn't it? Like it's fixing everything. Whether you're a mechanic or whether you're an accountant or an engineer or a health and safety expert or a fleet manager or whatever you are, right? If you're the one doing all the work and you're the everyday expert, you're limiting the amount of growth that your team and your business can have ultimately. And that's fine. Some people make that choice. And that's all they want to be. I don't want to deal with people. I just want to be able to have a good income doing the work myself. But ultimately, there's a cap on that because there's only so much time in your day, in your week, in your year. And so the mindset shift to really step into leadership and leverage that, get that multiplier effect happening, is to build a team of everyday experts themselves, is to teach people what you know so that they can do it without you. And no, it doesn't mean that you can just go on holiday and never come back. But ultimately, you need to have some oversight of what's going on. So think about, here's the example that someone shared with me. I think it's a great one. Think about Dave, the mechanic. Dave is a really good mechanic. He is so good that everyone starts telling everybody about what Dave does. And Dave suddenly has more customers than he can deal with. So what does Dave do? He thinks, well, I could just say no to all these customers, but what a waste, right? I think I'd like to have some of that. So I'm going to put on another mechanic. And soon Dave and his offsider are busy, and more customers keep coming because there's such good mechanics. Eventually, Dave's got 4 or 5 or 6 mechanics, and he finds himself now spending time solving people problems, touching base with customers about problems that have happened with how the mechanic did the work or complaints about things or whatever. He's more busy doing people management and client management, as you said, than actually doing the work that he loved. And suddenly Dave is thinking, You know, it was just so much easier when it was just me. And maybe I wish I could just go back there, and he may make that choice. But again, when he does that, he's putting a cap on his income for his business and himself, and means that he's on the tools for the rest of his life. That may or may not be possible depending on how well Dave looks after his body as he's doing this, right? But so many people can relate to this story. They're everyday experts who just become so good at what they do that suddenly they're leading a team. And I call this the accidental leader. They never intended. Dave never intended to be a leader. He just wanted to be a good mechanic. And he loves doing what he does, and he loves working with customers and cars, and there he is. And so most leaders I work with can relate to this. And I know it was my story as well. I just got to be good at what I was doing. And next thing you know, you're asked to step in for the boss or for the supervisor. Supervisor's going on leave. Next thing, you're the supervisor for the next month. And no one teaches you how to get the best out of that team. You're just expected to know. And it took me many years to learn that really my job is to make those people that I recruited or that I'm managing as good at what I was doing before I became the leader. And if I can teach them how to be that good, how many less headaches am I going to have? Heaps, right? If I've got the right people there and they know what to do, they know what the standards, the expectations are, they know the timeframes, the plan, they will do it as well as I can. And now I'm free to start thinking about how can I build my team better? How can I bring out the best in others? Because everyone is different. How can I make sure my team feel like they're empowered, that they can make decisions without me around? How can I set up some frameworks so that I can trust them to do that? How can I delegate more of the work that I don't really need to be doing? It's not my genius zone. And how can I leverage the talent that I've got? Now, they're very HR-y kind of people management words, but ultimately what we're saying here is that if you can train your team to be as good as you are at what you do, you free yourself to work on the business, to go and build more clients, to go and do some business development, right? To get out there because you're not tied there all the time. And if you're not there, everything stops. So that's really the shift that we're looking to make here. So how do you think it would feel if you were that sort of leader? If you had a team, I mean, David, you've been there, you said in the past you've had big teams. How would it feel, or how has it felt for you when you've been able to just set the direction, set the expectations, do the check-ins and follow up, and generally things are going well? How do you think that would feel?
Oh, utopia.
It is utopia. Do you think it can happen though?
It happen, like I've had, what I found is that I've got a pocket of excellence. I don't necessarily get it across all teams, particularly when I'm leading, multiple groups in different locations. That's all. So the dynamics of the teams are different. So I've had teams where one team's doing really well and another's not. So yeah, it's not.
Yeah, that's right. And that's very normal because every team's going to be at a different stage. Their dynamics will be different. Some will have some new people on. Some people will have been there forever. And each team is made up differently, isn't it, of that sort of level of experience and expertise and corporate knowledge or business knowledge. But also the context that they're working in might be making a difference as well. So it is utopia, but there is a system, I guess, that you can bring to get more of your teams working in this way. And I do acknowledge, David, that when you're directly managing a team, it's a bit different than when you're managing leaders. And then your job is to build a leadership team underneath you that are as good as leading as you are, hope to be, and that they are developing those people to be the best they can be, to be as good as they used to be on the tools, right? So that's really what we're trying to do, is trying to bring a system in that people can trust. And so some years ago, I was thinking to myself, how do I teach somebody? What does the research say? What is best practice on how to build this system in any business, in any team? And after some time, I came up with the momentum framework, which has, as you can see, 9 separate steps in it. And I've divided them up into 3 sections: deliver, grow, and optimize. And basically the first two, deliver and grow, are the fundamental ones that I think any team needs to work on. Any leader needs to build in their team. So delivering is obviously about making sure people know what needs to be delivered, what the goals are, make sure that there's clarity. People work well in clarity. They know what their role is in that whole big goal, and you measure and monitor and check how things are going. I don't mean micromanage. I mean, you say, we're going to get this done this month, and at the end of the month at least, and if not before that, I would suggest you're checking to see how we're going on that. So there is actually an eye on the prize, but that's not the whole deal. We know that people who just focus on deliveries can take shortcuts and deliver poor quality work. So it's about more than just getting things done. It's about getting things done to quality as well. So that's setting the purpose, making sure there's a plan, and monitoring performance in a way that builds people up, recognises the effort that people go to. Interestingly, when I talk to a lot of leaders and I say to them, when was the last time you said thank you to your team? A lot of people go, oh, why would I say thank you? They're just doing the job I'm paying them to do. They're not doing anything more than that. I'm like, okay, I get that. But a simple thank you goes a long way to encourage people to feel valued and to recognise the effort that they've put in, even if they're still growing and learning. I think it really does help to feel appreciated. And just that little bit of appreciation goes a long way towards them feeling loyal to you and being willing to put in a bit of extra effort. So the next one is grow, and that is obviously about growing your team. It's about focusing on hiring the right people, and not just people with the technical skills, but the right fit in your team. If you've ever hired the wrong person, a bit of a bad apple, you'll know the damage that they can do to a really good team. Onboarding them well, and there's a bit of a trick to that. I think we don't invest enough time in really supporting people as they're in that quite vulnerable state when they're coming into your team. There's a lot of data to say that people are more vulnerable to leaving and turning over in the first 3 months when they start a new role. So that is when you need to be wrapping your arms around them a bit and making sure you're supporting them with clarity and checking in on them regularly. And then developing them with feedback, making sure they know what's expected when they're not quite meeting expectations, and doing that in a way that keeps the relationship strong, that shows that you value them. And then finally, the last one is optimize jobs across. About making sure people can do other jobs across, not just their own. About making sure that if something goes wrong, everyone knows what to do. If a key person's away, or if your key business system fails, is there a manual workaround? Do people know what to do? And systemizing it so that what you're doing just becomes a regular thing. And all of that helps your team to feel bulletproof. It doesn't matter what happens. They feel like they know what they're doing. They're supported to grow and stretch, and there's consistency in how things are being done. It means that a lot of the day-to-day decision-making disappears. So the whole overall outcome of that is that by implementing it, people will have a clear direction, an engaged team, and we talked about the benefit of that, and future-proofing organisation. I have put in there in the chat a little worksheet, just a very quick one. This is only a half-hour webinar. I don't have time to do too much, but it's just asking, if you had a team, what's going really well now? What's one thing that's working really well in the team that you work with? And what's one headache that you would love to fix? So you don't have to answer this on the call, but I would encourage you to think about that. So celebrating what's good and going and letting people know, thank you, about what's working really well, and the things that could be improved. What's one headache that you're having at the moment? And looking at the momentum audit there, what is one thing that you could do to fix that this week, to bring more clarity, to help give people feedback so they're clear on what they're doing that's not quite up to speed. Maybe check in more regularly on how you're going, rather than it being a big surprise that you didn't make it the target at the end of the month. To build and cross-skill people across different roles to build some depth. So does anyone have anything they want to add there? I'm not going to put you on the spot, really.
Dean shared something.
Yeah. I was just saying, probably overall, I think the alignment of our team is good, but maybe a wee bit of focus on developing the skill sets, maybe a bit more kind of for across the team as well, myself included. So yeah, it's probably something for us to work on.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that, Dean. And I think because of the nature of business, we're always probably needing to develop our team more, because the way that we do things is changing all the time. And I know that in the business that you're in, it's significantly changing right now. And so keeping everybody, making sure everyone's on the same page is actually delivering the way that you expected, and troubleshooting when it's not happening. It's not necessarily the person's fault, but they're going to give you good intel to help make sure that you improve the system and then let everybody else know so that they're all doing it the same way for consistency. And it's all of those things in the momentum audit there that come to play. So I can send more information about that later on if you're interested. So please just get in touch and let me know. But before I wrap up, does anyone have any questions about what we've been talking about, the invisible load, about the freedom of getting out of the weeds?
Just a quick question, Natalie. Just you mentioned engagement of staff. Like it's a few years. I remember reading an article around Australian figures at the time, and I might be remembering. My memory was it was 80% plus of disengagement. I'm not sure if I'm remembering. Is it a high figure overall?
I think it does depend per organisation. I don't know that it's engagement is probably a little lower than 80%, I would say. You have your highly engaged people, your disengaged people, and then the middle ones. And so it's really about how many of those middle ones have you really got. I think it's a bit lower than that, and it does depend on the industry. I do know a client here who has very high engagement, but they are so high that even the people who measured the engagement, double check their data because they've never seen anything that high. So that's a real credit to them. But to get that level of engagement has taken significant and long-term focus on building exactly those sorts of things. But the benefit is that they've stemmed turnover. They're in a situation where they can't necessarily compete on salary, but they've kept their people because they're looking after them and they're valuing them and they're giving them interesting work and stretching them. And it all sounds so fluffy, but it really does make a difference. Yeah, so engagement, I would say for a lot of people is probably more around the 60% at best, and some a lot lower.
Yeah, fair enough. No, appreciate that. Thanks, Amelia.
Natalie, do you think that engagement has got less in the last 5 years as opposed to what it was before? Because I think just after COVID, there was this sort of thing they named as the silent resignation.
Yeah.
Where people are just going to the work, doing their job, and then kind of leaving, and there's no engagement in that. Do you think it's got worse in the last 5 years? Or
yeah, good question. I think it has improved a bit for most organisations. There was the great resignation after COVID. Everyone got used to being at home and think, why am I doing this? What's the purpose? And where I want to do work that has meaning. And I think that comes back to that very first step on the momentum framework about, having clear purpose. People want to come to work and do something meaningful and be valued for it. It's as simple as that. I think with the whole work from home thing, it took a while. That didn't help engagement for a while, and it's still tricky if you don't offer work from home. Some organisations can't, some type of work can't. It can be tricky with engagement, but most people, if they find the right role where they feel like their skills are contributing to a cause that they're passionate about, then engagement is still just as good as what it was before, but it did take a dip. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you.
And I do think too that I'm generalising, and it is different across different generational cohorts as well there. So you might find that some are more engaged than others, depending on how long they've been in the workforce and what their expectations are. And I think that's a bit of a lag from how the current leaders are leading what the younger people are expecting to feel and experience at work. So we need to be leading differently, I think, how we always used to. When I first started, I worked in a bank, and I worked for someone called Mr. White and Mr. George, and whatever they told you to do, you did it. And if you didn't like it, they didn't care. Life has changed over the decades. Now we are expected to be concerned about our staff. The Work Health and Safety Act requires that we are making sure that we've got psychologically safe workplaces. Mr. George and Mr. White wouldn't have even considered that or wanted to, right? The world is changing, and we need to change too as leaders and managers. All right, I just wanted to take a moment then, thanks for those questions, to talk to you a little bit about what I do. So very briefly, I have a 12-month online membership program called Lead Lab, which covers people from all different industries and sectors. And it's really great because instead of going off on a 3-day workshop and coming back all motivated and then forgetting everything, what we do is we work in chunks. You learn, you do, you learn, you do. And every month you're learning a new part of the momentum framework and other soft skills associated with leadership. You're getting live coaching. There's training that you can access anytime and a whole heap of tools and ongoing support from me and other coaches who support the cohort. And it's drawn on real world strategies and contexts. So if you're interested in sustaining learning and building those skills over time so that they stick, then I'd really encourage people to look into Lead Lab. Once you learn these skills, you take them with you forever. It doesn't matter whether you stay in this organisation you're in, whether you move to another business or organisation, or you want to grow bigger and really scale, the tools will still work. We also do one-on-one coaching. I coach leadership teams to help them to bring some cohesion. We come in and do in-house training as well. I do some online workshops too. And we can support you when you're going through change, whether that's bringing in new values or after a restructure you want to implement, or just wanting to improve the culture of the organisation. That's where we can certainly work with you and your leaders and help. So there's a QR code there if you want to book a call. And so I really would encourage you to get in touch if you've got any questions. But otherwise, I hope that you picked up a couple of ideas there of something that you can do. But I encourage you to stop and think, what is one little thing that you can do to move out of some of the little team headaches that you're having? Just pick one idea and implement it. It will make a big difference. You just have to start small. So thank you very much for your involvement, for your questions and comments. I appreciate you showing up.